现实与虚幻的辩证关系, the dialectical relationship between reality and illusion. Siefeng, October 5, 2017. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Reality is real in name only. Illusions are illusory in name only. Reality is illusory and material. Illusions are real and non-material. The material world is the presentation of the non-material world. The non-material world is the foundation of the material world. Reality is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow. As dew and lightning, thus should you meditate upon them. Every illusion is real and true, is where the real spirit and soul dwell, and where the great universe is. Consciousness is illusory, but reality is the reflection and projection of consciousness. The consciousness determines the state of life's existence. Wishes are illusory, yet they lead to reality. Ideals are illusory, yet they accomplish life's reality. Visualized prospects are illusory, but according to the principle of visualized thinking, it is they that determine the future. Love is illusory, but it can inject huge spirit and soul energy into people. Heaven is illusory, but we all want to go there. As long as we dream of heaven, we will be able to overcome the hardships of life's journeys and lead optimistic and positive lives. Dreams are illusory, but when we are in dream worlds, the illusions look very real. We think of our day-to-day lives as being real because everything in them seems very real and true, but what is the difference between the truth of reality and the truth of dreams? One day, when we finally leave this real world and wake up in another illusory world, we will find out that life is only a dream, an illusion. What are illusions? What is reality? The bygone is like mist and smoke, like a dream or a fantasy. The future truth is illusory and looming. To walk slowly or quickly, there are many roads to take in life. To take with good means or bad, in the end it is all empty. The wilderness where foxes sleep and hares walk was once a dance hall. The bleak and desolate field where flowers and grass grow was once a battlefield. The bygone realness now becomes illusory, and the illusion of the future will evolve into reality. Reality comes from illusions and will return to illusions. Illusions originate from truth and will become reality. Everything is but a game. Only the soul is true. Reality is a game. Those who obsess with reality and are trapped in it are confused. Those who take delight and fun in it are awakened. It makes no sense to try to hold on to the reality of a dream. The real life is to play the games. The contents of them are determined by illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses are determined by souls. Souls are real, but nature is life and a characteristic of structure. Structure determines nature. Therefore, the non-material structure of life is ultimately, absolutely real, however reality and illusion are dialectical. Real structures give rise to illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses in turn produce real structures. Therefore, our top priority should be to concentrate our efforts on the illusory consciousness of life. The type of illusory consciousness decides the future reality of life. Illusions become realities and realities become unreal. If you have a beast's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in a beast's reality. If you have a celestial being's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in the celestial world. Once you understand the dialectical relationship between reality and illusions, you should not be lost in reality. Consume your time and energy on things there. Cling to and worry about them. Seize, possess, compete for, or persist after them. You should take reality as a stage in a game and play it to its fullest. As long as you get happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing, then your life is successful, wise, and full. To own nothing is to have everything. Not to act is to act. Hold fast to illusions and you can have reality. Having reality is, after all, an illusion. Life is a journey. The more things that you possess in reality, the more misery you will have, and the more pathetic you will become because your life will all be a tragedy. The more illusory things that you possess, the happier and more affluent you will be because your life will ultimately become a comedy.
宇宙八大辩证法
The 8 Dialectics of the Universe. Jiefeng. April 13, 2010. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Taiji thinking teaches us that everything in the universe comes from the unity of opposites and the symmetry of yin and yang. Opposing sides exist in the same unity. One is the condition for the other and disappears when the other does. Within a certain range, one flourishes as the other declines. Extremes meet and things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. For example, know the male but conform to the female. Sages put themselves last but find themselves in front. They regard their bodies as accidental and are thereby preserved. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. Yin and yang are the roots of each other. To yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be hollow is to be filled. To be tattered is to be renewed. The growth and decline, the generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of any two opposites are dialectical. There are 8 dialectics in the universe. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. The small can grow big. Details matter. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Positive and negative are symmetrical but proportion restrains. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. The 3 elements of the universe are consciousness, structure, and energy. They are all non-material. The existence of any single element is emptiness. See it and you will not see its form. Hear it and you will not hear its trace. Meet it and you will not know its face. Follow it and you will not find its back. Once the 3 join together though, there is lustrous and dazzling form, changing countlessly and into a myriad of images. Therefore, form comes from emptiness and emptiness is form. When emptiness comes, there is form because form is emptiness. If a mind abides in form, it is in emptiness. If a mind abides in emptiness, it is in form. You pursue form, but form is never there. You pursue emptiness and you get form. Pursuing form results in emptiness. Pursuing emptiness results in form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. Extremes meet. Things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. When you reach your peak, you go downhill. Extreme happiness leads to sorrow and extreme sorrow leads to happiness. Extreme yin is yang and extreme yang is yin. The softest becomes the hardest and the hardest becomes the softest. There is a time to rise and a time to fall. When a thing reaches its prime, it will be old and will revive. The end of the infinitely big is the infinitesimally small, and the end of infinitesimally small is the infinitely big. When something saturates, a qualitative change happens in it. Things change at critical points and new substances are produced. Extreme beauty leads to ugliness and extreme ugliness leads to beauty. Extreme goodness forms evil and extreme evil forms goodness. That is, great virtue is no virtue and great benevolence is heartless. Haste makes waste. One who understands Tao appears dull of comprehension, and one who advances in Tao appears to slip backwards. To pursue happiness, you must avoid extremes. To revive, go for the extreme. The small can grow big, details matter. Matter is composed of molecules composed of atoms. A tree with a full span's girth begins from a tiny sprout. A 9-storied terrace begins with a clod of earth. From small beginnings, one can see how things will develop and grow. Difficulties are overcome by easy things. Great things are accomplished by the details. Details matter. Deal with the big while it is yet small. Deal with the difficult while it is yet easy. Start from the beginning and start from the small, but do not lose track of the big picture. Molehills make mountains. Do not neglect small things or you will never accomplish big things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Any future success depends on the present. Small details and tiny things lead to grand achievements. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. No life, no death. No death, no life. Life and death alternate and each follows the other. Yang flourishes when yin declines and yin flourishes when yang declines. Every moment of every day has birth and death. One dies here but is born there. Hard is born as soft dies. Good is born as evil dies. One departs from the mortal world and is born into the celestial world. A human heart dies and the heart of a celestial being is born. If you keep the old, you will get nothing new. If you are selfish, you will never reach the Elysium world. Out of life, death enters. Those who are not afraid of death will live. The created universe carries yin at its back and yang in front, and vice versa. Seek life and you will die, seek death and you will live. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Out of nothing there is something. The less you possess, the more you have. The more you possess, the less you have. When you possess nothing, you can have everything. When you have everything, you can possess nothing. The more you have, the more emptiness you feel, the more illusory it is, and the more real it is. Walk into the spiritual Pure Land, and you will see a wonderful world. Pursue wealth, power, and lust, and you will have endless troubles. Being and non-being interconnect in growth. If you want to have something in heaven, give it up in the mortal world. To have nothing is to have everything. By the existence of things we profit, and by the non-existence of things we are served. Work on non-existence for existence. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Nature is the quality of origin which is Buddha. The reason that people cannot attain Buddhahood is that their minds abide somewhere. If their minds abided nowhere, they would attain Buddhahood. When one's mind abides nowhere, nature shows. When their mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. This is dialectical. One advances as the other retreats. Different forms give birth to different souls. When minds abide somewhere, trouble comes. Therefore, if your mind abides somewhere, it will be in falsehood. It should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. It should abide nowhere. When the mind abides nowhere, it can abide everywhere. And when the soul can transcend over all forms and show the nature, one can reach the Elysium world. He who focuses too much on the specific cannot see the general. A mind that abides somewhere cannot go to the Elysium world. One who acquire enlightenment can perceive nature. One who lack mind can show nature. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Stillness is the source of motion. It cannot be dynamic if it is not static. Motion is the root of stillness. It cannot be static if it is not dynamic. Stillness and motion coexist and come from each other. Strong motion comes from great stillness. Great stillness comes from strong motion. All things derive from stillness but are accomplished in motion. Without stillness, there is no motion. Without motion, there are no accomplishments. Light comes out of darkness and darkness comes from light. Heaven and hell, one light and the other dark. Extreme darkness is light and extreme light is darkness. Fortune and adversity go together. Out of waste grows grass. Bliss is unfelt until after it leaves. Good fortune lies within bad. Bad fortune lurks within good. Non-interference with natural rules and letting all things happen naturally. Those who act at the wrong times spoil things. One should never fear the dark. Out of extreme darkness comes light. Knowing the dialectic of the universe, one can enjoy the light cautiously, for from extreme light comes darkness. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Those who differ from the crowd will be slandered. An outstanding tree in the forest will be destroyed by wind. Those who enjoy great fame will be envied, but those who are most favored will be slandered. 36-dimensional space is arranged symmetrically. The forces of action and reaction are equal but in opposition. All things reinforce and neutralize each other mutually. There is always one thing to overcome the other. There is heaven and there is hell. All things develop in proportion. Chaos and the early devastation were the results of imbalance. Boundless avarice leads to disaster. Conform to nature and give up inordinate ambitions. Understand that everything has two sides, and that perfection is unattainable. Rivers run into the sea, so you can never drink them all. Tao is the theory of yin and yang. Maintaining a balance between the two is rational. Knowing the dialectic principle is wise, and complying with the laws of nature can be regarded as virtue.
如何解脱生死
How to liberate yourself from life and death. Jiefeng. June 17, 2011. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The subtlety of liberating oneself from life and death in the treasury of the true Dharma I is that Buddha Sakyamuni had held a flower in his hand as he smiled in the Lingshan mountain assembly. Only his first disciple, Mahakassapa, understood why and gave a faint smile. Buddha said, "I possess the true Dharma I, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, and the subtle Dharma gate that does not rest on words or letters, but is a special understanding outside of the scriptures." Mahakassapa later explained his understanding directly to Ananda, who gave it to Shanavasa, and all the way to Bodhidharma, the 28th patriarch of Buddhism. When the 27th patriarch Prajnatara gave it along with a robe and begging bowl to Bodhidharma, he said, 60 years after I attain nirvana, I want you to take these three things from India to China and carry Buddhism forward to benefit all living people. Bodhidharma took Zen Buddhism to China, and was regarded as the first Chinese Zen Buddhist patriarch. He eventually passed them to Haik, the second patriarch, who passed them to Songkhan, the third patriarch, then to Daoxin, the fourth patriarch, and to Hongren, the fifth patriarch. When Master Hongren told about them, he was met with some trouble because he found that the real successor should be the unknown handyman Huaining in the monastery instead of the highly reputed and admirable Professor Master Shenxiu. It would be very unconvincing to all if everything passed directly to Huaining. In a desperate way, he said, "The lives and deaths of mortals are matters of huge importance, but you only pursue the land of promise without seeking to be away from the bitter sea of life and death. If you lose your nature, then how can blessings bring you salvation? Both of you write me a stanza. He who understands what the essence of mind is will be given the robe, the insignia of the patriarchate, and the Dharma, the ultimate teaching of the Zen school, and I shall make him the sixth patriarch." With a small trick, he finally gave his treasures to Master Huaining. Master Huaining was the sixth and final patriarch of Zen. The treasury of the true Dharma I and the robe and begging bowl were lost after him. I used to joke that I am the seventh patriarch of Zen, and that I have written on Zen by the seventh patriarch of Zen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the most heavily weighted 5 articles of all my writings. Now the question, as instructed in Buddha's treasury of the true Dharma I, this subtle Dharma gate, does not rest on words or letters but is a special message outside of the scriptures, becomes how to transfer from mind to mind. If I were to tell it with words, then I would be rebelling against the teachings of Buddha. So, if not expressing with words, how can we know how to liberate ourselves from the samsara of life and death? To make the best of both worlds, I can only slide over the water. Whether you can be liberated from life and death all depends on your level of practicing Tao, your destiny, and your root of wisdom. There is no life or death in life. The life and death seen by the world is an illusion. It is the evolved deduction of the carrier of life. Life has nothing to do with time, so life has no limitations of time and is beyond all ages. The nature of life is non-material structure. The form rendered by life is decided by its non-material structure. Its non-material structure decides the form rendered by it. Consciousness originates from structure, and in turn controls structure. Human consciousnesses make people, animal consciousnesses make animals, and if you develop your consciousness to that of a celestial being or a Buddha, then you will become a celestial being or a Buddha. Life is a cycle of reincarnations. The death we commonly see is not the death of life itself, but the phenomenon of life transformation. Life travels from one dimension into another, from one world into another, through the gate of life and death. When a life crosses that gate from this field, we see it as death, but from the other field it is life. All dharmas are marked with emptiness. They neither begin nor end, are neither immaculate nor defiled, and neither complete nor deficient. Therefore, in emptiness there are neither forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, nor consciousness. Neither eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, or minds. Neither sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touchables, or any sensations, and so on until we have form. There are no mind consciousness elements, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on until we have form. There is no decay and death, no extinction of decay and death, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, it is because of their non-attainmentness that bodhisattvas, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwell without thought coverings. In the absence of thought coverings, they have not been made to tremble, have overcome what can upset, and in the end have attained nirvana, to be free from life and death. When you are liberated from life and death, you can attain nirvana. If you understand the truth above, then you can be liberated from the samsara of life and death. The problem is that as mortals we have fleshy eyes and mortal stalks. As we cannot see higher dimensional space and worlds, we are not fully convinced of the above truths. Then what? It is easy. Follow the guide and verify step by step. What are those things that hinder us from liberating from the samsara of life and death? The answers are greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion. Greed is the want to always possess more out of self-interest. Anger is to detest, blame, and envy. Ignorance is the belief that you are always right and never wrong. Arrogance is self-importance, pretentiousness, disdain, defiance, and the lack of a gracious, cherishing heart. Suspicion is being full of doubts and not facing the facts. It is hypocritical, false, and self-deceiving. Overcoming greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion will enable you to understand this truth, and will liberate you from the samsara of life and death. The reason is very simple and easy to do, but putting it into real practice is difficult. After being liberated from life and death, one also needs to understand where to go after death. If you are heading to the lower world, then you will be miserable.